On a dark and foggy night in Birmingham, Alabama, the silhouette of the Sloss furnaces looms like a giant from another era, its towering smokestacks piercing the sky. Once the lifeblood of a booming industrial age, Sloss furnaces now stands as a national historic landmark and an enduring symbol of Birmingham's rise as an industrial powerhouse. But beneath the accolades and historical significance lies a much darker story, one filled with tragedy, mystery, and whispers of the supernatural. Built in the late 19th century, Sloss Furnaces was at the heart of Birmingham's iron and steel production. Its massive blast furnaces turned raw iron ore into steel, fueling the city's growth and earning it the nickname the Magic City. Yet, for all its contributions to industry, Sloss Furnaces was also a place of immense danger. Workers toiled in unbearable heat, surrounded by molten metal and machinery that could turn deadly in an instant. These harsh conditions gave rise to countless accidents, some of which ended in horrific fatalities. The very nature of the work at Sloss Furnaces fostered an environment ripe for urban legends. One particularly chilling reality was the relentless demand placed on workers, many of whom were poorly paid and subjected to brutal conditions. These factors not only shaped the physical environment, but also left an emotional and spiritual imprint, a lingering energy that some believe has never left the site. As industrial practices modernized, Sloss Furnaces ceased operations in the mid-20th century, leaving its once bustling grounds eerily quiet. The site was preserved as a historical landmark, but it didn't take long for reports of ghostly phenomena to emerge. Visitors and staff began to speak of disembodied voices, shadowy figures, and inexplicable cold spots within the labyrinth of pipes and machinery. The once roaring furnaces, now cold and silent, seemed to echo with the past in ways that defied explanation. Today, Sloss Furnaces is more than just a relic of Birmingham's industrial heyday. It is a place where history and the supernatural intertwine. For those who dare to venture into its dark corridors and towering furnaces, the question looms: are these paranormal experiences simply the product of imagination and urban legend, or is something truly otherworldly at work? The answer remains as elusive as the ghosts said to haunt the site. With its ominous appearance and long history of loss, Sloss Furnaces captivates visitors not just as a historic site, but as one of the most haunted locations in America. It sets the stage for a deeper exploration of the stories, legends, and inexplicable occurrences that have cemented its place in paranormal lore. In the shadows of its massive iron structures, the line between history and haunting begins to blur. The stories of ghostly activity at Sloss Furnaces began to gain traction not long after the site ceased operations in the early 20th century. As the site transitioned from an industrial hub to a preserved historical landmark, it became clear that the past had left an indelible mark, not only on the structures, but seemingly on the very atmosphere of the place. The eerie silence of the dormant furnaces, combined with the heavy shadows cast by towering ironworks, created an environment ripe for unexplained encounters. One of the first widely reported phenomena was the sound of footsteps echoing through empty corridors. These heavy, deliberate steps were often described as resembling the booted walk of the furnace supervisors who once patrolled the grounds. Former workers and visitors alike recounted moments when they felt an unseen presence following them, the air thick with an inexplicable sense of dread. While many dismissed these occurrences as figments of imagination, others were less sure, citing the consistency of these claims over the years. Adding to the mystery are the chilling reports of disembodied voices. Witnesses have described hearing muffled conversations, shouted commands, and even desperate cries for help, despite being entirely alone. These auditory experiences are often attributed to the spirits of workers who suffered tragic accidents during the furnace's operational days. The nature of the work was unforgiving, and accidents were a grim reality. It's said that the voices echo as a haunting reminder of lives lost in pursuit of industrial progress. One of the most striking reports involves the sighting of shadowy figures. These apparitions, often described as tall, dark silhouettes, are frequently seen near the furnaces and in the underground tunnels where slag was once discarded. Some believe these figures are the spirits of workers who perished in the most dangerous areas of the facility. Witness accounts detail these shapes moving purposefully, as if performing tasks long since abandoned. Paranormal investigators who have visited the site have documented these sightings, with many claiming to have captured photographic and video evidence of the shadowy forms. The reputation of Sloss furnaces as a paranormal hotspot grew as these experiences became more widely known. In the late 20th century, ghost hunters, historians, and skeptics began to flock to the site, each seeking to uncover the truth behind its haunted reputation. Numerous paranormal investigation teams have conducted overnight stays at the furnaces, using specialized equipment to detect anomalies. From unexplained electromagnetic readings to temperature fluctuations, and even faint whispers recorded on audio devices, the findings have added to the site's allure and mystique. What sets Sloss furnaces apart from other haunted locations is the sheer volume and variety of reported phenomena. It's not just one ghost or one type of experience. It's a convergence of unexplained events that seem to weave together, creating a tapestry of haunting tales. These accounts have made Sloss furnaces a focal point for paranormal enthusiasts and historians alike, solidifying its place in American ghost lore. As the reports continue to mount, one thing becomes increasingly clear. Sloss furnaces is more than just an industrial relic. It is a place where history speaks not only through its preserved structures, but also through the inexplicable events that leave visitors questioning the boundary between the living and the dead. As reports of supernatural activity at Sloss furnaces gained prominence, certain areas of the site emerged as the epicenters of the hauntings. These locations, steeped in history and tragedy, have been the subject of countless ghostly encounters, each one adding another layer to the furnace's chilling reputation. One of the most infamous spots is the underground tunnels, where molten slag was transported during the furnace's operational years. These tunnels are now silent, but visitors have described an overwhelming sense of unease when walking through them. The air is said to grow heavier, and faint whispers echo from the dark corners. Paranormal investigators have recorded startling evidence here, including unexplainable cold spots and disembodied voices calling out names. Some have even claimed to hear the sound of clanging metal, as if the furnaces had roared back to life. The blower building, a towering structure that once housed the equipment powering the furnaces, is another hotspot for paranormal activity. Many have reported seeing fleeting apparitions on the catwalks or peering out from the high windows. Witnesses describe these figures as shadow-like, yet distinctly human in their movements. What makes these sightings particularly eerie is the sensation of being watched, a feeling shared by countless visitors to this building. The boilers, large iron structures once used to create the intense heat necessary for smelting, also have their share of ghostly legends. Several visitors have reported seeing hazy figures standing near the boilers, often disappearing the moment they are noticed. Others speak of hearing phantom machinery noises, including the low hum of the boilers and the rhythmic pounding of unseen tools. The casting shed, where molten metal was poured into molds, is another area steeped in spectral activity. Many believe this location carries the weight of lives lost in horrific industrial accidents. Shadows have been seen darting between the massive iron molds, and some visitors have felt an invisible hand brush against them. Equipment used by paranormal investigators has recorded unexplained electromagnetic spikes here, further fueling the belief that this area is a hub for ghostly energy. Perhaps the most chilling reports come from the high walkways above the furnaces, areas once used by supervisors to oversee production. It's here that many have encountered the spirit of a foreman, known only as the Watcher. Witnesses describe a figure standing motionless on the platforms, his stern gaze fixed on the ruins below. Some believe this apparition could be linked to a tragic death, or a foreman who took his duties to the grave. What makes these experiences particularly unnerving is their consistency. Different people, visiting at different times, have reported similar sightings and sensations in these specific areas. The accounts often come from skeptics, further adding to their credibility. These paranormal hotspots have turned Sloss furnaces into a haven for ghost hunters and thrill seekers alike. Each encounter, whether a fleeting shadow, an unexplainable sound, or an overwhelming sense of being watched, contributes to the growing legend of this haunted landmark. As you move through these spaces, it becomes impossible not to feel the weight of history pressing in. A reminder that Sloss furnaces is far more than just a relic of industrial progress. It is a place where the past refuses to rest. Over the years, countless visitors, employees, and paranormal investigators have shared chilling accounts of their experiences at Sloss furnaces. These stories, each unique yet eerily similar, paint a vivid picture of a place where the line between the living and the dead grows increasingly blurred. One recurring phenomenon reported at Sloss furnaces is the sensation of physical touch by an unseen presence. Guests have described feeling a sharp tug on their clothing or an icy hand brushing against their skin. In several cases, individuals exploring the tunnels or climbing the furnace walkways claim to have been pushed or nudged, as if someone or something was urging them to leave. These encounters are often accompanied by an inexplicable drop in temperature, leaving the victim shaken and disoriented. Employees working at the site as part of its historic preservation have also reported unsettling incidents. Many speak of hearing their names whispered when no one else is around, or the sound of footsteps following closely behind them. These sounds, which always seem to originate just out of sight, have been attributed to the restless spirits of former workers. Some employees have even quit their jobs, unable to cope with the constant feeling of being watched. Paranormal investigators who have conducted nighttime investigations at Sloss furnaces have captured startling evidence. Recordings often pick up voices responding to questions with some EVP, electronic voice phenomena, sessions producing chilling phrases like "get out" or "help me." Thermal imaging devices have detected humanoid shapes in areas devoid of any living presence, and electromagnetic field meters frequently spike without explanation. One well-known investigation conducted by a paranormal research team yielded remarkable results. While setting up cameras in the casting shed, a piece of equipment suddenly toppled over without any apparent cause. Reviewing the footage later, the team was shocked to see a faint, shadowy figure move across the frame seconds before the incident. This visual evidence added yet another layer to the growing legend of Sloss furnaces as a paranormal hotspot. Visitors on ghost tours have shared their own harrowing encounters, many of which occur in the dimly lit hours of dusk or night. Some have seen faces peering back at them from broken windows or heard echoing laughter that fades into silence. A few brave souls who dared to take photos at random have captured eerie anomalies, blurred figures, glowing orbs, or streaks of light that seem to defy explanation. A particularly famous story involves a group of teenagers exploring the site late one night. According to their account, they heard the sound of a loud crash and hurried to the source, expecting to find debris or evidence of vandalism. Instead, they found nothing out of place. But as they turned to leave, they saw the distinct figure of a man standing on a walkway above them. The figure reportedly disappeared the moment they called out, leaving them to flee in fear. Even skeptics who have visited Sloss furnaces admit to experiencing unexplainable events. One man, who initially dismissed the ghost stories as mere superstition, found himself frozen with fear when a heavy iron door creaked open by itself right in front of him. He described the moment as unshakable, a turning point in his belief about the paranormal. These first-hand accounts add an undeniable authenticity to the haunting lore of Sloss furnaces. While the origin of these phenomena remains a mystery, their impact on those who experience them is unmistakable. The tales, whether shared in hushed whispers or broadcast as evidence, serve as a powerful reminder that some places seem to hold on to their past more tightly than others, refusing to let go of the spirits that once called them home. As the story of Sloss furnaces comes to a close, one thing becomes undeniably clear. This site is much more than an industrial relic or a hotspot for ghost stories. It stands as a place where history, tragedy, and the unknown intersect, leaving a lasting impression on all who dare to explore it. The echoes of Birmingham's industrial past resonate in every corner of the furnaces, from the rusted walkways to the towering stacks that once belched fire and smoke. This is a place built on hard labor, where men toiled under unimaginable conditions. It's no wonder that the pain and sacrifice of those who worked and perished here seem to linger, leaving behind an energy that modern science struggles to define. In many ways, Sloss furnaces serves as a stark reminder of the cost of industrial progress. The tragedies that occurred here, from gruesome accidents to untimely deaths, have woven a fabric of loss and sorrow that persists to this day. These moments of human suffering may have etched themselves into the very walls of the furnaces, creating a space where past and present collide in unsettling ways. Despite its dark history, Sloss furnaces has also become a place of fascination and connection. For paranormal enthusiasts, it's a treasure trove of unexplained phenomena, offering glimpses into the unknown. For historians, it provides a window into the lives of the workers who built Birmingham's industrial empire. For the average visitor, it's a place that evokes curiosity, fear, and awe in equal measure. Over the decades, the site's reputation as one of America's most haunted locations has only grown. Ghost tours, television specials, and countless investigations have kept the legend alive, each adding new layers to the story. Yet for all the tales of apparitions, disembodied voices, and shadowy figures, the true heart of Sloss furnaces lies in its ability to make us reflect, not just on the supernatural, but on the resilience of the human spirit and the indelible marks left by our shared history. As Sloss furnaces continues to draw visitors from around the world, its legacy as a place of mystery and wonder remains intact. Whether you believe in ghosts or see the stories as an extension of folklore, there's no denying the unique atmosphere of this historic site. It's a place where every step feels heavy with the weight of the past, where every shadow seems alive with secrets waiting to be uncovered. In the end, Sloss furnaces challenges us to confront what we know and what we fear. Is it merely a monument to a bygone era, or is it something more? Do the spirits of the past truly linger here? Or are the strange occurrences just tricks of the mind, amplified by its eerie surroundings? Perhaps the answers to these questions don't really matter. What does matter is the way this place captures our imagination, drawing us into its story and making us a part of its ongoing legend. Sloss Furnaces is more than a haunted landmark. It's a living narrative, one that will continue to inspire wonder and fear for generations to come. And so, whether you leave this story as a skeptic, a believer, or somewhere in between, the legacy of Sloss Furnaces remains. It stands as a haunting reminder of the past and a testament to the enduring power of stories to connect us to the unknown. If you ever find yourself in Birmingham, Alabama, perhaps you'll decide to visit and see for yourself what lies within the shadows of Sloss Furnaces. Who knows? You might just walk away with a story of your own. In the small town of Abbeville, Alabama, a chilling legend has been passed down for generations. This town, with its charming colonial houses and friendly people, seems like any other quiet southern town, But as the sun sets, a mysterious figure, known as Huggin Molly, is said to roam the streets, striking fear into the hearts of children who dare to stay out after dark. Abbeville, with its population of around 2,000, is a place where everyone knows each other. The locals spend their days shopping in small boutiques and dining at family-owned restaurants. It's a town with a rich history, having endured hardships from European settlers, conflicts with the Creek Nation, and the struggles of segregation. Despite these trials, the people of Abbeville have created a close-knit community. But amid this backdrop of southern charm and hospitality, the legend of Huggin Molly casts a long shadow. Described as a woman standing 7 feet tall, dressed in dark clothing with a wide-brimmed hat, Huggin Molly is no ordinary ghost. She is said to appear to children who aren't home by dark, hugging them tightly and screaming in their ears. While her embrace is terrifying, she never physically harms the children. The worst they suffer is the ringing in their ears from her piercing scream. The origins of Huggin Molly are shrouded in mystery, with multiple stories explaining her presence. Some say she is the ghost of a woman who lost her infant, and now seeks to comfort other children. Others believe she was a professor trying to keep students safe by scaring them off the streets at night. Regardless of her origins, Huggin Molly has become a permanent fixture in Abbeville's folklore, a ghostly guardian who roams the streets after dark. As we delve deeper into this eerie tale, we'll explore more about Huggin Molly's history, the stories of her sightings, and the impact she has had on the community of Abbeville. The story of Huggin Molly is deeply woven into the fabric of Abbeville's history. The legend has been told and retold, each version adding new layers to the mystery of this spectral figure. The exact origins of Huggin Molly are unclear, but the tale has been a part of the town's lore for as long as anyone can remember. One popular version of the story suggests that Huggin Molly was once a grieving mother who lost her infant child. Overwhelmed by her sorrow, she began to roam the streets at night, seeking to replace the child she lost by hugging other children. This version paints Molly as a tragic figure, her ghostly actions a manifestation of her unending grief. Another account claims that Huggin Molly was a professor at the Southwest Alabama Agriculture School. Concerned for the safety of her students, she would patrol the streets at night, ensuring that no one was out after dark. Her ghostly form, it is said, continues this vigil even after death. Her screams, a warning to any child still outside after sunset. Abbeville itself has a history marked by tragedy and resilience. The town was nearly destroyed by an arsonist at the start of the 1900s, and later suffered from a devastating F2 tornado. These events left a deep scar on the community, and it is believed that the legend of Huggin Molly emerged from these difficult times, a way for the townspeople to make sense of their suffering and to protect their children. Despite these different origin stories, the essence of the legend remains the same. Huggin Molly is a protective, yet terrifying presence, a ghostly figure who ensures the children stay safe by scaring them home before dark. Her tall, shadowy figure and her loud, piercing screams are said to be unforgettable to those who have encountered her. As the legend continued to grow, it became a part of Abbeville's identity. The story of Huggin Molly is told to every new generation, a blend of cautionary tale and ghost story. Whether she is a grieving mother, a protective professor, or something else entirely, Huggin Molly remains a haunting figure in the collective memory of Abbeville. Over the years, many residents of Abbeville have claimed to encounter the ghost of Huggin Molly. These sightings have only added to the eerie legend, giving it a tangible sense of reality. One of the earliest recorded encounters happened in the 1940s, when a local teenager, Jimmy, swore he saw a tall, shadowy figure following him home one night. He remembered the figure's long, dark dress and wide-brimmed hat, exactly as the legend described. He ran home as fast as he could, his heart pounding, the chilling screams echoing in his ears. In another instance, a group of children playing outside at dusk reported seeing a woman in black standing at the edge of the playground. She was unnaturally tall and seemed to be watching them intently. As they stared, she began to move towards them, her arms outstretched as if to hug them. Terrified, the children fled, and when they looked back, the figure had vanished into the shadows. One particularly unsettling encounter involved a local woman named Sarah, who was walking home late one evening. She had just finished her shift at the local diner and was taking a shortcut through a quiet street. Suddenly, she felt an overwhelming sense of dread and looked up to see a towering figure in black looming in front of her. Before she could react, the figure enveloped her in a cold, bone-crushing hug and screamed directly into her ear. Sarah was paralyzed with fear, and when the figure finally released her, she ran home without looking back. The next morning, she still felt the ringing in her ears from the ghostly scream. More recent encounters have been recorded as well. In the early 2000s, a couple driving through Abbeville late at night reported seeing a figure dressed in black standing in the middle of the road. They slowed down, thinking it might be someone in need of help, but as they approached, the figure disappeared. They described feeling an intense cold as they drove through the spot where the figure had been standing. These encounters, while varied, all share common elements: the tall, shadowy figure dressed in black, the chilling screams, and the eerie sensation of being watched. For the people of Abbeville, these stories are more than just local legend. They are a reminder that Huggin Molly is very much a part of their town's haunted history. The stories of Huggin Molly's appearances continue to send shivers down the spines of Abbeville's residents. As more people share their experiences, the legend only grows stronger. One such encounter happened to a group of teenagers who decided to test their courage by walking through the town after dark. They had heard the tales, but were skeptical of the old legend. As they walked down a dimly lit street, they joked and laughed, trying to mask their unease. Suddenly, the laughter stopped when they noticed a figure standing at the end of the street. It was a tall woman, dressed in black with a wide-brimmed hat, just as the stories described. The teenagers froze, unable to move, as the figure started gliding towards them. One of the boys, trying to prove his bravery, shouted at the figure, but it did not deter her. She came closer and closer until she was within arm's reach. Then, without warning, she grabbed the boy in a tight embrace and let out a blood-curdling scream. The other teens fled in terror, and when they looked back, the figure and their friend were gone. They found him minutes later, shaken but unharmed, with a ringing in his ears that lasted for hours. Another spine-chilling tale comes from an elderly resident named Mr. Thompson, who had lived in Abbeville all his life. He recalled a night in his youth when he was walking home from a late-night gathering. The streets were empty, and the town was eerily silent. As he approached his house, he felt a sudden chill and turned to see a dark figure standing under a street lamp. The figure started moving towards him, and Mr. Thompson's instincts kicked in. He ran as fast as he could, but no matter how fast he went, the figure seemed to glide effortlessly behind him. Just as he reached his front door, he felt a cold, bony hand on his shoulder and heard a piercing scream that echoed through the night. He stumbled inside and slammed the door, too afraid to look out the window. In more recent years, technology has captured evidence of Huggin Molly's eerie presence. A young man named Kevin, who was fascinated by the paranormal, set up a camera outside his house, hoping to catch a glimpse of the infamous ghost. One night, the motion sensor triggered the camera, and it captured a chilling scene. A tall, shadowy figure could be seen moving across the yard, pausing briefly to look directly at the camera before disappearing into the darkness. When Kevin reviewed the footage, he felt a cold dread wash over him, knowing that he had just recorded proof of Huggin Molly. These encounters, each more terrifying than the last, paint a vivid picture of Huggin Molly's haunting presence in Abbeville. Whether she's a ghost seeking to protect or a tormented soul longing for lost loved ones, her appearances leave an indelible mark on those who experience them. The legend of Huggin Molly is alive and well, with each new sighting adding another layer to the chilling tale. The legend of Huggin Molly has woven itself into the very fabric of Abbeville. Despite the fear and unease she brings, she is also a part of the town's identity. Each generation passes down the stories, warning children to be home before dark to avoid her ghostly embrace. The tales serve as a reminder of the town's rich history and the mysteries that still linger in the shadows. In an effort to embrace their unique heritage, the townspeople of Abbeville have found ways to honor Huggin Molly. A local restaurant named Huggin Molly's has become a popular spot, drawing visitors curious about the legend. The establishment, styled like a 1950s diner, offers a glimpse into the past while celebrating the town's most famous ghost. Patrons can enjoy a meal while hearing stories of Molly's sightings and the history of Abbeville, making it a must-visit for anyone interested in the paranormal. Festivals and events also highlight the legend, with ghost tours and storytelling sessions bringing the eerie tale to life. Local historians and residents alike share their knowledge and personal encounters, keeping the spirit of Huggin Molly alive. These events not only entertain, but also educate, ensuring that the legend continues to be a significant part of Abbeville's culture. Huggin Molly's story is a testament to the power of folklore and the enduring nature of ghost stories. She has become a guardian of sorts, her spectral presence a constant reminder to stay safe and be wary of the unknown. For the people of Abbeville, she is both a source of fear and a beloved figure, representing the town's resilience and its rich tapestry of tales. In the quiet moments when the sun sets and the streets grow dark, the legend of Huggin Molly comes to life. Children hurry home, and adults share knowing glances, their minds drifting to the ghostly figure that has roamed their town for over a century. The stories of Huggin Molly will continue to be told, her haunting presence forever etched into the heart of Abbeville. As the years go by, new encounters and experiences will add to the legend, ensuring that Huggin Molly remains a vivid part of Abbeville's history. Whether seen as a protector or a spectral reminder of the past, she will always be a part of the town's soul. And on those cold, dark nights, when the wind whispers through the streets, the people of Abbeville will know that Huggin Molly is watching, waiting, and perhaps just looking for someone to hug. Selma, Alabama, is a city known for its rich history, but it also carries a darker reputation. Located on the banks of the Alabama River, this small city has seen its fair share of historical milestones, from Civil War battles to its pivotal role in the civil rights movement. But as much as it has witnessed progress and change, Selma is also home to a complex and eerie past that many believe has left its mark on the city. With around 15 reported haunted locations, Selma is often referred to as one of the most haunted cities in the United States, and it's easy to see why. Selma's eerie reputation can be traced back to its turbulent history. During the Civil War, the city was the site of intense battles, including the Battle of Selma, which resulted in widespread destruction. Buildings that once stood proud were reduced to rubble, and countless lives were lost in the chaos. Many of these locations, now crumbling and abandoned, are said to harbor the restless spirits of those who perished during this bloody conflict. But it's not just the Civil War that left its ghostly imprint on Selma. The city was also a major player in the civil rights movement, most famously during the 1965 march from Selma to Montgomery. The bloodshed and struggle for equality that unfolded here added another layer of tragedy and unrest to the city's history. Some claim that the spirits of those who fought for justice are still present, their struggles echoing through the streets and buildings. Selma's old, Live Oak Cemetery, one of the oldest and most hauntingly beautiful graveyards in the South, is perhaps the most well-known haunted location in the city. Dating back to the early 1800s, the cemetery is the final resting place for many prominent figures in Selma's history. The grounds are filled with massive oak trees that seem to reach out like skeletal hands, their twisted limbs casting long, eerie shadows at dusk. Visitors to the cemetery have reported seeing apparitions, hearing whispers in the wind, and feeling a chilling sense of being watched. This cemetery holds more than just a few restless souls. It's believed to be haunted by the ghost of a young girl who is said to have died in the 19th century. Her apparition is often seen wandering the cemetery at night, her tattered white dress trailing behind her as she moves aimlessly through the rows of graves. Some witnesses have reported feeling a sudden drop in temperature or an overwhelming sense of sadness when near her spirit, and others claim to have seen her disappear into thin air, leaving only a faint whisper in the breeze. But the old Live Oak Cemetery is just the beginning. As we venture through Selma, we find that almost every corner of the city has its own tale of haunting. The spirit of the young girl is not the only ghost to have been seen on the city's streets. In the historic district, the image of a little girl in old-fashioned clothing is often reported. She seems to be searching for something, or someone. And while some argue she's merely a figment of the imagination, others believe she is a manifestation of a tragic past. These hauntings, while fascinating, are far from isolated incidents. The sheer number of reported paranormal activities in Selma is what makes this city so captivating to ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts. From strange noises and ghostly apparitions to eerie sensations and unexplainable events, Selma's haunted locations have become a hotbed for those seeking answers to the mysteries of the afterlife. Whether it's the spooky glow of St. James Hotel or the disembodied voices in the old Depot Museum, the city's ghost stories have a way of gripping the imagination. As we continue, we'll dive deeper into some of the specific locations around Selma, exploring the history and the hauntings that continue to draw people to this southern city in search of the unknown. Selma's haunted reputation isn't limited to ghostly figures in graveyards. Some of the most chilling stories come from the city's historic buildings, where both the past and the supernatural seem to converge. These locations, steeped in history, have witnessed tragedies, battles, and struggles, and it's no surprise that many believe the spirits of the past still linger within their walls. One of the most notable haunted locations in Selma is the St. James Hotel, a landmark that dates back to the 1830s. This historic hotel is known for its beautiful antebellum architecture, but it's also infamous for the ghostly encounters that occur within its walls. Over the years, guests have reported hearing strange sounds, such as footsteps in empty hallways or doors slamming shut on their own. Some have even claimed to have seen shadowy figures walking through the hotel, only to disappear when approached. However, it's the reports of ghostly children that truly stand out. Guests staying at the St. James Hotel have experienced the unsettling sensation of hearing children laughing or playing in the hallways at night, even though no children are present in the building. Some visitors have even felt the chill of little hands brushing against their legs or the feeling of being gently tugged at in the dark. The presence of these ghostly children is particularly eerie, given that the hotel was once the site of several tragedies. During the Civil War, the building served as a hospital, and it's believed that many of the spirits that remain are victims of the war, including children who died during that tumultuous time. Another haunted location is the old Depot Museum, a site that holds a grim connection to Selma's past. The museum, once a railroad depot, was the hub for transporting soldiers and supplies during the Civil War. Today, it houses artifacts from the city's history, but it also carries an air of unease. Numerous visitors have reported hearing strange noises, like the sounds of footsteps echoing in the hallways, or voices that seem to come from nowhere. Some have claimed to hear the unmistakable sound of a train whistle, even though the depot is no longer operational. And then, there are the reports of apparitions. People have described seeing ghostly figures standing in the museum's windows, only to vanish when approached. One particularly chilling encounter involved a woman who was visiting the museum late one evening. As she walked through the halls, she began to feel an overwhelming sense of dread, as if she were being followed. Turning a corner, she saw a figure standing at the end of the hallway, an old man dressed in the attire of a Confederate soldier. As she approached, the figure disappeared, leaving her with a sense of cold and fear that she couldn't shake. The museum is often cited by paranormal investigators as one of the most haunted locations in Selma, and the consistent reports of strange occurrences suggest that the past is not easily forgotten here. Even Selma's beloved Edmund Pettus Bridge, a landmark forever etched in the history of the civil rights movement, has its share of ghostly tales. Though it is most famous for the bloody Sunday March of 1965, the bridge has long been associated with strange, unexplained phenomena. Some have claimed to feel a heavy presence on the bridge, particularly during the night. The feeling of being watched or followed is common, and there have been reports of strange, unexplained noises, like distant screams or the sound of footsteps that don't belong to anyone walking with you. While many associate the bridge with its historical significance, some believe the spirits of those who struggled for civil rights may still be lingering there. The traumatic events that took place on the bridge have undoubtedly left their mark, and the stories of paranormal encounters only serve to amplify the sense that the bridge is not just a piece of history, but a site of ongoing spiritual conflict. From the St. James Hotel to the Old Depot Museum and the Edmund Pettus Bridge, Selma's historic locations are riddled with ghost stories and unsettling reports. These places are not only haunted by the past, but by the people who lived through these tumultuous events. The spirits of soldiers, children, and civil rights activists seem to haunt these spaces, leaving behind a legacy of terror and mystery. It's not just the architecture that draws people to these locations. It's the chilling tales that have been passed down through generations of encounters with the supernatural that seem to transcend time. In the next part of our video, we will explore some of the most terrifying ghost stories to come out of Selma, focusing on specific apparitions and experiences that continue to haunt the city's residents and visitors alike. As we dive deeper into Selma's paranormal world, it's clear that the city's most famous haunted locations are not just relics of the past. They are alive with stories of eerie encounters. People have had chilling experiences that blur the lines between reality and the supernatural. These ghostly encounters have left lasting impressions on those who have dared to explore Selma's haunted sites. One of the most unsettling experiences comes from the haunting of the old Live Oak Cemetery. Known for its historical significance and eerie beauty, this cemetery has been a focal point for paranormal investigators for years. The cemetery, established in the early 1800s, is the final resting place of many of Selma's earliest settlers, Confederate soldiers, and other notable figures. With so many spirits interred there, it's no wonder that the cemetery has become a hotspot for ghostly activity. Many visitors report feeling a heavy sense of dread as they walk among the old tombstones, as if they are being watched from all angles. Some have even heard the faint sounds of whispers, as if the spirits are trying to communicate. However, it's the apparition of a woman dressed in mourning clothes that has garnered the most attention. According to several accounts, a figure, believed to be the spirit of a grieving widow, has been seen walking between the graves, her face obscured by a veil. Witnesses have reported feeling an overwhelming sense of sadness and loss when they encounter her, and a few claim that the figure will vanish when approached, leaving only the sound of footsteps echoing in the still air. Another spine-chilling encounter took place in the Selma Interpretive Center, a place that tells the story of the city's pivotal role in the civil rights movement. Though the center serves as a place of reflection and history, there have been reports of strange occurrences within its walls. One particularly unsettling incident involved a group of visitors who were touring the center late in the evening. As they moved through the exhibits, they noticed a cold draft sweeping through the room, despite all windows and doors being securely closed. Suddenly, the group began to hear faint, echoing voices that sounded like those of people arguing and shouting in the distance. As they moved closer to investigate, the voices grew louder, only to stop abruptly when the group turned a corner. The strange coldness and inexplicable sounds have led some to believe that the spirits of those who fought for civil rights may still be present in the building. Perhaps one of the most terrifying stories comes from the old plantation house just outside of Selma, a place that has long been known for its dark past. The plantation is said to be haunted by the ghost of its former owner, a cruel man who mistreated his slaves in unimaginable ways. Many people who have visited the plantation claim to have felt a malevolent presence looming over them, a feeling that seems to follow them wherever they go. One visitor reported feeling an intense pressure on their chest as if something was trying to suffocate them. As they rushed to escape the room, they were struck by an overpowering smell of decaying flesh, only to find that there was nothing in the room that could explain the stench. Others have heard strange noises such as chains dragging across the floor or the sound of footsteps following them, but when they turn around, no one is there. The lingering presence of the former plantation owner's ghost seems to make this site one of the most terrifying haunted locations in Selma. But the most terrifying experiences in Selma aren't always confined to its historical buildings and landmarks. Sometimes, the city's spirits seem to take on a life of their own, appearing unexpectedly and causing fear in the hearts of those who cross their paths. One of the most widely known ghost stories in Selma involves a ghostly child seen wandering through the streets of the city's historic district. The young girl, often dressed in old-fashioned clothing, has been spotted late at night, seemingly searching for something or someone. Witnesses report that the girl appears disoriented and lost, her eyes wide with fear. She is often seen walking down the street or standing at the corner, staring vacantly into the night. Some believe she is the spirit of a child who died long ago, while others speculate that she is simply a projection of Selma's haunted past. These encounters, whether it's the restless widow in the old live oak cemetery, the strange voices in the Selma Interpretive Center, the oppressive spirit in the plantation house, or the ghostly child, speak to the enduring nature of Selma's haunted reputation, the city's tragic history, its dark past, and its deep emotional scars seem to have left behind more than just physical remnants. They have left behind spirits that refuse to rest. And while some of these stories may be hard to believe, the consistency and intensity of the encounters suggests that there is something more at play in Selma than mere folklore. As we continue our exploration of Selma's ghostly world, we'll look at the broader implications of these hauntings, including the idea that these spirits may be tied to the struggles, pain, and suffering that have shaped the city's history. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, it's clear that Selma's haunted legacy continues to cast a shadow over the city, keeping the past alive in ways that can't be easily explained. As we reach the final part of our journey through Selma's haunted past, it's clear that the city's ghostly reputation isn't just the result of stories told around campfires or rumors passed between locals. There's a deep connection between Selma's history, the pain and tragedy that once echoed through its streets, and the spirits that are said to still linger today. What makes Selma's hauntings so compelling is not only the intensity of the paranormal activity, but also the way these spirits seem to embody the city's most significant and tragic moments. Selma's involvement in the civil rights movement, in particular, has shaped the city in ways that still resonate today. Many of the ghost stories tied to Selma seem to reflect the struggles, the battles for equality, and the lives lost during this turbulent time in history. The city was the site of the infamous 1965 Bloody Sunday March, where peaceful protesters were violently attacked as they attempted to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge. The bloody confrontation and its aftermath left a deep scar on the city, and some believe that the spirits of those who fought and died for civil rights are still present, their energy lingering in the places where they stood and fought. Visitors to Selma often report a sense of unease when they stand on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where the echoes of that tragic day still seem to haunt the air. Some have claimed to feel an overwhelming sense of sorrow, as if the emotions of those who fought for justice are still trapped in the very ground where they marched. There have also been reports of strange lights, shadowy figures, and unexplained noises that many attribute to the spirits of those who were injured or killed during that dark chapter in Selma's history. While the civil rights movement is a significant aspect of Selma's haunted legacy, it's important to remember that the city's history stretches much further back. The early years of Selma were marked by bloodshed, violence, and the pain of slavery. The old plantation houses, with their dark pasts and tragic histories, seem to hold the memories of the people who lived and worked there. The spirits of those who endured unimaginable hardships, whether as slaves or as victims of violence, are said to linger in the areas surrounding these sites. Selma's haunted history doesn't just end with the tragic events of the civil rights movement or the plantation days. The city's ongoing struggles with the racial and social tensions seem to permeate the very air, leaving an atmosphere thick with unresolved emotions. The spirits that haunt Selma appear to be reflections of a city that has never fully healed from its past, a city where sorrow, pain, and injustice still echo through the years. But what does all of this mean for the people of Selma today? How does the city, with its heavy supernatural legacy, reconcile its past with its present? The answer lies in the way the city remembers its history. As Selma works to honor and preserve the stories of those who fought for civil rights, it also continues to wrestle with the shadows of its past. The hauntings are not just about the ghosts of the past. They are reminders of the struggles and tragedies that shaped Selma into the city it is today. Many residents of Selma believe that the hauntings are a reflection of the city's soul, a constant reminder that the past cannot be forgotten, no matter how hard we try. It's a reminder that the spirits of Selma's troubled history, whether they are the lost souls of the civil rights movement or the echoes of those who suffered before, will always be a part of the city. They remain there, tethered to the ground, watching over the city as it continues to evolve. Is Selma truly the most haunted city in America? That's up for debate, but the intensity and frequency of paranormal activity in the city, along with the deeply emotional history that underpins these hauntings, suggest that there is something undeniably powerful at play here. Selma's ghosts are not just a collection of eerie stories. They are the spirits of a city's past that refuse to be forgotten. And while their presence may unsettle those who come to visit, it's also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and to the ongoing fight for justice and remembrance. As we close this chapter on Selma's haunted legacy, one thing remains certain. The ghosts of Selma will continue to walk its streets, echoing the city's painful past, and reminding us of the power of history to shape our present and future. Whether we view them as shadows of a bygone era or as persistent spirits of the past, they are a part of Selma, and they always will be.